Oh, would you look at that? Another day, another trial at the Grand Galactic Tribunal. Just what I needed to make my three-lunged respiratory system quiver with excitement. As chief observer Glack's tour of the unified systems, it's my somewhat tedious duty to document these proceedings for historical archives. But this one's different. Trust me, I've seen 17,000 trials, and you develop a sense for the special ones. Today's main attraction, Tessa Morgan, human, Deathworlder, troublemaker extraordinaire, standing before the most powerful judicial body in 7 spiral arms of the galaxy, looking about as concerned as someone waiting for their morning caffeine supplement. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. The chamber itself is designed to intimidate. Massive curved walls of polished Xanthari marble rise 200 meters to a domed ceiling displaying real-time stellar cartography. The judge's platform hovers 10 meters above the floor, a psychological tactic that's worked on every species except those blasted hive minds from Sector 9, who communicate through interpretive cloud formations anyway. All rise for the honorable tribunal of the 7 systems, bellows the court announcer, a Voldarian with vocal cords that could shatter glass at 40 paces. The gathered assembly rises in various interpretations of the word rise. The gelatinous pluvians simply extend their upper pseudopods. The crystalline Tazlari chime and shimmer in acknowledgement. The Gravilax representatives, massive 12-meter creatures that resemble what humans might call sentient boulders with attitude problems, don't move at all. But nobody's about to tell them they're doing it wrong. And there she is. Tessa Morgan, 5'7" of apparent biological contradictions. No exoskeleton, no redundant organs, no protective scales, just soft, vulnerable skin and a skeleton inside her body. Absolutely backward, if you ask any xenobiologist worth their credentials. Facing her across the chamber stands Kraz'Nul, apex warlord of the Draz'Kathar Dominion, 3 meters of pure evolutionary terror, with naturally armored plating, retractable bone blades, and a neurological system specifically evolved for combat calculations. His species conquered 17 worlds before developing space travel. And he looks angry? Concerned? It's hard to read Draz'Kathar emotions when they have 7 facial orifices that all seem to scowl simultaneously. The case of the Draz'Kathar Dominion versus human representative Tessa Morgan will now commence, announces Chief Justice Plex Moore, her translucent tentacles waving in formal judicial patterns. You need to understand something about humans. They come from Earth or Terra, as they insist on calling it in formal documents. Gravity 1.3 times galactic standard. Atmospheric pressure that would crush the respiratory systems of half the consortium species. Temperature fluctuations that would kill most sentient life. Bacterial and viral loads that would constitute a Class 7 biohazard on any civilized world. In short, they're Deathworlders. Evolutionary freaks who developed on a planet seemingly designed to kill them, yet somehow didn't get the memo that they should be extinct. The galaxy was perfectly orderly before they showed up in their laughably primitive ships barely 50 years ago. And now this particular Deathworlder has somehow managed to provoke the wrath of the most militarily accomplished species in known space. This should be good. Well, good in the way that watching a solar flare consume a planetary system is good horrifying, yet impossible to look away from. Tessa Morgan stands there, completely silent, as the charges are read. Not a tremble, not a word. Just those unsettling human eyes, scanning the room with calculations I can't begin to fathom. Oh yes, this will be a trial to remember. Let me fill you in on why we're all here, breathing the same recycled air as a Deathworlder. Not that I'm nervous. That would be unprofessional. Though I have positioned myself exactly 7.3 meters away from her, the calculated safe distance, should she suddenly exhibit the berserker rage humans are rumored to possess. The conflict between humans and the Draz'Kathar Dominion began, as these things often do, with a misunderstanding. Specifically, the misunderstanding that humans were weak. Hilarious in retrospect, really. Like assuming a black hole is just a scenic spot for picnicking. The human vessels entered Draz'Kathar territory without proper authorization, Kraz'Nul declares, his primary speaking orifice flaring dramatically. When our patrol ships attempted to escort them to a processing station, they refused compliance. I remember when news of first contact with humans spread through the consortium 15 years ago. Most species were unimpressed. Another soft-bodied, single-hearted species with no natural weapons, the pundits declared. They'll petition for protected status within a decade. Hey. The consortium's finest xenosociologists, proven wrong by primates with anxiety issues and a concerning attachment to projectile weapons. Kraz'Nul stalks around the presentation area, his ceremonial armor clicking with each step. Draz'Kathar never developed digital displays. They prefer three-dimensional holograms that burst dramatically from their armor's projection nodes. Very flashy. Very unnecessary. Very Draz'Kathar. We extended the claw of diplomacy, he continues, and they responded with what they call sanctions. Reserve. The hologram shows a human diplomatic vessel refusing docking instructions at a Draz'Kathar orbital platform. I've seen the unedited version of this recording. Kraz'Nul's conveniently omitting how his diplomatic greeters had weapons primed and targeting systems locked. Through all this, Tessa Morgan stands motionless. Most species would be displaying stress responses by now. Pluvians would be bubbling anxiously. Gravelax would be shedding mineral flakes. But the human? Nothing. Just controlled breathing and this expression. It's not quite a smile. More like the look a physicist gets when watching an object accelerate exactly as their equations predicted. It's unsettling. Several members of the Tribunal, Justice Lombok's chromatophores have shifted to a troubled mauve pattern. Even the normally impassive arbitrator Vex is blinking her four eyes in an irregular pattern. 5 cycles ago, Kraz'Nul continues. Bone crests fully extended in dominance display. Human mining operations expanded to the Cerelian belt, despite our prior claim. Ah yes, the Cerelian dispute. I attended those negotiations as a neutral observer. What a disaster. The Draz'Kathar diplomat opened by suggesting humans would make excellent servant species given their manual dexterity. The human representative responded by accidentally on purpose spilling his coffee on the Draz'Kathar's ceremonial war kilt. I had to leave the room to compose myself. Most unprofessional laughter of my career. The hologram shifts to show human mining ships establishing operations in the asteroid belt. The Draz'Kathar ships surround them in formation. We demanded they withdraw. They responded with this insult. The hologram zooms in on one human ship where, yes indeed, someone had painted an anatomically incorrect but unmistakably obscene Draz'Kathar caricature on the hull. Several members of the Tribunal gasp. Justice Plexmore's tentacles twist into the formal pattern indicating diplomatic concern level 3. Kraz'Nul is hitting his stride now, bone blades partially extended from his forearms in unconscious threat display. When we attempted to escort these trespassers from our territory, they responded with violence. Observe the unprovoked attack. The hologram shows human ships suddenly accelerating, weapons firing. Draz'Kathar ships returning fire, then several explosions. What it doesn't show, and I know this because I've studied the complete records, is that the Draz'Kathar ships fired warning shots first, miscalculating human response protocols. Humans don't recognize warning shots as warnings. They consider them the opening of hostilities. Cultural differences can be so troublesome when they involve plasma cannons. 27 brave Draz'Kathar warriors lost their lives in this human aggression. Kraz'Nul roars, "We demand justice." Throughout this entire theatrical performance, Tessa Morgan hasn't flinched. Not once. The Tribunal has fallen completely silent, all attention focused on the human's reaction, or rather, lack thereof. Even I find myself leaning forward slightly. Why isn't she defending herself? Where are the passionate human speeches about freedom and independence they're so fond of? The silence stretches uncomfortably. Kraz'Nul's secondary breathing orifices flare in what I recognize as confusion. He expected fear. He expected pleading. He expected anything but this unnerving calm. Does the human representative wish to respond to these accusations? Chief Justice Plexmore queries. her voice resonating through the chamber. Tessa Morgan finally moves. Just a small shrug of those peculiar human shoulders. "I'll speak when it's necessary," she says, voice perfectly steady. "But it seems the Warlord has more to say." "Please continue." Is that amusement in her voice? Several members of the Tribunal shift nervously. The temperature regulation system suddenly seems inadequate. Even I, a professional observer of 17,000 trials, feel a strange sensation along my dorsal ridges. Kraz'Nul's facial orifices contract in what I recognize as pure rage. The room crackles with tension so thick you could slice it with a Draz'Kathar bone blade. This is going to get interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. Kraz'Nul's secondary heart must be pounding with rage by now. I can tell by the way his neck spines are fully extended, a biological response that hasn't evolved out of their species, despite being completely useless inside armor. His voice drops to that guttural register Draz'Kathar use when they're about to suggest something violent. How predictable. "Esteemed Tribunal," he rasps, claws clicking against the ceremonial staff he carries. "Galactic law permits resolution through ancient customs when both parties consent." Oh, now this is unexpected. Even I didn't see this coming, and I've documented Draz'Kathar diplomatic tactics for over 30 years. The human insults our honor with her silence. Kraz'Nul continues. "I invoke the right of Krevnax." A collective gasp ripples through the chamber. The Pluvians are practically liquefying with excitement. Justice Plexmore's tentacles freeze mid-wave, the judicial equivalent of dropping one's jaw in shock. Warlord Kraz'Nul, Chief Justice Plexmore says carefully, "The right of Krevnax has not been invoked in a tribunal setting for 7 centuries. Yet it remains valid under Section 12, Paragraph 7 of the Galactic Charter," he counters, bone blades now fully extended from his forearms. "Trial by combat. 1 representative from each side. No technological advantages. Pure biological resolution. For those of you not versed in galactic law, and why would you waste precious neural capacity on such tedium? The right of Krevnax is an ancient provision allowing disputes to be settled through ritualized combat when legal processes reach an impasse. It's a relic from more barbaric times that somehow survived into our enlightened era, like ceremonial appendices that modern species haven't bothered to evolve away. Let me explain why this is absolutely, hilariously insane. Kraz'Nul stands 2.9 meters tall. His exoskeleton can withstand pressure that would crush military-grade alloys. His forearms each contain retractable bone blades capable of slicing through spacecraft hull material. His redundant cardiovascular system includes 3 hearts and specialized combat adrenal glands. His species evolved as apex predators on a world with 1.4 standard gravity. The Warlord's combat record includes 73 ritual duels, 73 victories, 59 fatalities. He once defeated a cybernetically enhanced Taurian bull soldier in 12 seconds. And he wants to fight her? The soft-skinned primate with no natural weapons? Is he serious? The human may, of course, decline, Kraz'Nul adds with mock generosity, all 7 facial orifices twisted into what passes for a Draz'Kathar smile, and concede all claims to disputed territories. Representatives from 17 systems are frantically consulting emergency communication devices. The consortium ambassador has turned an alarming shade of purple. The human diplomatic corps representatives in the observation gallery look positively ill. All eyes turn to Tessa Morgan, who yawns. She actually yawns. A bizarre human respiratory function that resembles a threat display but apparently indicates boredom. The chamber goes so quiet you could hear a whisperling's thought processes. "Sure," she says, stretching her arms above her head. "Why not? Let's do this old school." The translator must be malfunctioning. She can't possibly have agreed. "You accept the right of Krevnax?" Chief Justice Plexmore asks, her voice modulator failing to hide her shock. "Against Warlord Kraz'Nul himself?" "That's what I said," Tessa replies with that same unsettling calmness. "Traditional rules, right? No weapons besides what we're born with?" Kraz'Nul's exoskeleton plates clatter in what I recognize as anticipatory battle fervor. Correct, he says, eyes narrowing to predatory slits. One rotation to prepare. Combat at the rising of the central star. Works for me, Tessa says with another one of those infuriating shrugs. The chamber erupts in chaos. The Pluvians are releasing stress bubbles that pop with alarming velocity. The Gravalax representatives are rumbling so deeply the floor vibrates. The human diplomatic corps members are shouting and gesturing wildly, but Tribunal guards block their approach to Tessa. As the Tribunal adjourns to prepare the ritual combat arena, I manage to position myself near enough to overhear a junior human diplomat frantically whispering to Tessa, "Are you insane? He'll tear you apart." Tessa Morgan's response chills my circulatory fluids. "No," she says with a small smile. "He won't. I've observed 17,000 trials, but for the first time in my career I have absolutely no idea what's about to happen." The Tribunal's ritual combat arena hasn't been used in centuries. A maintenance droid spent all night clearing accumulated dust, and the nests of several invasive species that apparently found the sacred grounds of justice an ideal location for reproduction. How embarrassing for Tribunal security. The arena itself is a perfect circle, 30 meters in diameter, with walls of ancient stone quarried from 17 founding worlds of the Galactic Consortium. Very symbolic, very impressive, very useless against preventing the imminent squashing of a human. Every viewing platform is packed to capacity. I've secured a prime observation position due to my official status, though several Pluvians attempted to bribe me with rare minerals for my spot. The atmosphere is electric quite literally in the case of the Voltari delegation, who express excitement through actual bioelectric discharges. Everyone's recording devices are active despite the Tribunal's prohibition. This will be the most viewed spectacle since the Great Nebula collapse of 3476. "Welcome to the sacred arena of resolution," booms the ceremonial announcer, a Voldarian whose vocal amplification makes my auditory membranes vibrate painfully. Today we witness the resolution of dispute through the ancient rite of Kraz'Nul. The eastern entrance portal dilates, and Kraz'Nul strides into the arena. He's by all 17 moons of Zagzolter. What a sight! He's removed his formal armor, revealing his full exoskeletal glory. 4 massive arms with fully extended bone blades gleaming under the arena lights. His primary fighting claws have been polished to a deadly shine. The bony crest extending from his head to lower back is fully raised in dominance display. He performs a traditional Draz'Kathar war dance, all stomping feet and slashing claws that literally cracks the stone floor. Several spectators from more timid species faint at the display. Representing the Draz'Kathar Dominion, Apex Warlord Kraz'Nul, victor of 73 ritual combats, conqueror of the Vorath Rebellion, destroyer of the Taurian Armada. The announcer's voice reaches new pain-inducing volumes with each accolade. Kraz'Nul roars, a sound so primal it triggers instinctive fear responses in most species present. I notice several diplomatic representatives backing away from their viewing positions despite being safely behind energy barriers. Then the western portal opens. Tessa Morgan walks in. Just walks in. No dramatic entrance. No battle cry. She's wearing what humans call workout clothes, simple black fabric that covers torso and legs. Her hair is tied back in what I believe is called a ponytail, though it bears no resemblance to any tail I've observed in nature. She looks like she's about to engage in light exercise rather than fight for her life. Representing Earth and human territories, Tessa Morgan. The announcer pauses, clearly expecting more titles or accolades, but there's nothing else to announce. Just a name. The silence that follows is almost comical. Tessa gives a small wave to the human delegation, who look collectively ill. One appears to be praying. An amusing religious response to what is clearly a secular doom. Combatants approach the center. Commands Chief Justice Plex Moore, her tentacles forming the ritual patterns of combat authorization. They move to the center. The size difference is absurd, like watching a Gravalax mountain face off against a whispering pebble. Kraz'Nul towers over her, Bone blades extended, mighty legs tensed for battle. Tessa just stands there, bouncing slightly on the balls of her feet, rolling her shoulders in casual stretches. The combat concludes when one participant yields or can no longer continue. Intones plex more. May justice be served through ancient ways. They return to their respective sides. A tone sounds. The combat begins. Kraz'Nul charges immediately, covering the distance between them with frightening speed. His primary right claw sweeps down in an arc that would cleave most beings in half. Tessa sidesteps, simply sidesteps. The mighty Warlord's blow strikes empty air, momentarily throwing him off balance. The crowd gasps collectively. I find my own respiratory cycle interrupted by surprise. But Kraz'Nul recovers quickly, spinning with practiced precision. His secondary arms thrust forward with bone blades extended, a move I've seen disembowel 3 different species in previous, unofficial, combat footage. Tessa ducks under the attack, then rolls away from the follow-up stomp that cracks the arena floor. Stand still, human. Kraz'Nul growls, frustration evident in his secondary breathing patterns. Why would I do that? Tessa replies, sounding amused. She's actually smiling. The Warlord launches into his infamous quadruple strike sequence, a blurring combination of all 4 limbs attacking from different angles simultaneously. It's a move that earned him victory in the Battle of Corex Prime against 3 opponents at once. Yet somehow Tessa is not there when the blows land. She moves with a fluid grace that seems impossible given human joint structure. Not elegant like Tazlari crystal dancers, but efficient. Economical. She expends precisely the minimum energy needed to not be where Kraz'Nul's attacks land. 5 minutes into the combat, and the human hasn't even attempted to strike back. The crowd is murmuring in confusion. This isn't how ritual combat typically proceeds. There should be an exchange of blows, displays of strength. Instead, we're watching the galaxy's most accomplished warrior essentially shadowboxing while a human plays an elaborate game of don't get hit. Kraz'Nul is showing signs of frustration. His attacks become more aggressive, less controlled. His exoskeleton plates are clicking rapidly, a sign of elevated stress response. He's breathing heavily from his primary and secondary respiratory orifices. Fight me, coward. He roars, mandibles fully extended in rage display. I am fighting, Tessa replies calmly, ducking another vicious swipe. You just haven't noticed yet. And that's when I begin to understand. The human isn't just avoiding damage, she's making the Warlord work. Every lunge, every strike, every charge expends enormous energy. The Draz'Kathar are built for explosive combat, quick, devastating battles that end in seconds. Their massive musculature and multiple hearts deliver tremendous power, but at a metabolic cost. 10 minutes now. Kraz'Nul's movements are slowing. His mighty exoskeleton, evolved to withstand tremendous impact, has become a liability weight that must be moved, requiring energy. Sweat, or the Draz'Kathar equivalent, seeps from beneath his plates. His breathing grows more labored. Tessa, meanwhile, shows minimal signs of exertion. Her movements remain precise, controlled. She's barely breathing hard. How is this possible? She's been in constant motion, avoiding attacks from a creature twice her size with 4 striking limbs. Wait, is she humming? Yes, the human is actually humming a tune while dodging death by millimeters. In the sheer audacity. 15 minutes. The crowd has gone from confused to enthralled. Even species that came expecting, hoping for a human dismemberment, are now watching with newfound interest. This isn't the combat they expected, but it's fascinating nonetheless. What are you? Kraz'Nul gasps, his attacks now noticeably slower, less coordinated. Just a Deathworlder, Tessa replies with that infuriating smile. We're built different. And that's when she does something completely unexpected. She stops dodging. Kraz'Nul's next blow, a desperate, exhausted swipe, connects. His claw strikes her shoulder with enough force to shatter stone. Except she doesn't shatter. She grunts, staggers back a step. There's blood that alarming red fluid humans carry. But she's still standing, still smiling. How? How? I've seen Draz'Kathar warriors shatter reinforced barricades with such strikes. The blow from a warlord should have separated her arm from her body. My turn, says Tessa Morgan, and for the first time since this absurd combat began, I feel a chill run through my spinal column. What happens next will forever change galactic understanding of humans. I witness it with all 4 of my visual organs, and I still barely comprehend it. Tessa Morgan, bleeding from a wound that would incapacitate most sentient beings, steps toward Kraz'Nul. Just one step, one simple step. But it's not the step itself, it's where she steps. She moves directly into the Warlord's blind spot, that 10-degree arc where the configuration of Draz'Kathar's sensory organs creates a momentary visual gap. A weakness so minor, so insignificant, that no opponent has ever exploited it successfully. Most species don't even know it exists. Humans studied your biology very carefully after our first encounter, Tessa says conversationally, as if discussing meal preferences rather than engaged in mortal combat. We're curious like that. Kraz'Nul whirls, trying to reposition, but he's exhausted. His movements have lost their precision. His mighty limbs, evolved for explosive force, tremble with fatigue. Your exoskeleton is impressive, Tessa continues, somehow always remaining in that blind spot as Kraz'Nul struggles to track her. But it has 14 major joint articulations, each requiring precise hydraulic pressure to function optimally. When that pressure drops due to extended exertion, she taps. A specific point where Kraz'Nul's primary right arm connects to his thoracic plate. A gentle touch that shouldn't register on a being of his size and durability. The mighty limb goes completely limp. The crowd gasps in collective shock. I nearly expel my morning nutrition through my secondary digestion tract. What did you, Kraz'Nul begins, panic evident in his voice. Pressure point, Tessa explains calmly. Your hydraulic circulation system is amazingly efficient, but the neural control clusters are surprisingly vulnerable when your metabolic rate exceeds sustainable levels. She moves again, another single step circling to another precise position. Another tap to his lower thoracic junction. His left primary arm hangs useless. The fascinating thing about Deathworlders, she says, now addressing the stunned audience as much as her opponent, is that we evolved to endure. Our entire physiology is built around outlasting threats we couldn't overpower. Persistence hunting. It's how we caught prey that was faster and stronger. We simply didn't stop until they were too exhausted to continue. Kraz'Nul roars in rage and desperation, attempting to strike with his secondary arms. His movements are sluggish, uncoordinated. Tessa slips past the attack with insulting ease. You're magnificent at explosive combat, she acknowledges, delivering another precisely calculated tap to his right secondary arm junction. Another limb disabled. But humans? We're marathon runners. The mighty warlord of the Draz'Kathar Dominion, terror of 17 star systems, conqueror of civilizations, stands immobilized in the center of the arena not by restraints or technology, but by a few precisely placed touches from fingers that shouldn't possess such knowledge or capability. What? Do you yield? Tessa asks quietly. The arena is utterly silent. Not a breath, not a movement, not a neural impulse among the thousands watching. Even the perpetually bubbling pluvians have gone still as glass. Kraz'Nul, with the single functioning limb he has remaining, makes the ancient Draz'Kathar gesture of submission. I yield, he growls, mandibles clicking in what I recognize as profound confusion. The silence holds for 3 more seconds. Then the arena erupts. 17 species expressing shock in 17 different biological ways. The Voltari are discharging so much bioelectricity that the arena's surge protectors activate. The Gravalax representatives are vibrating at frequencies that threaten structural integrity. The Tazlari are chiming so intensely that several crystalline appendages shatter from resonance. And through it all, Tessa Morgan stands calmly in the center of the arena, looking for all the world like someone who's just completed a mildly interesting exercise routine, rather than rewritten the galaxy's understanding of interspecies power dynamics. One human, one step, One paradigm shattered beyond repair. 3 standard galactic weeks have passed since what's now being called the Morgan incident. The ripple effects have been, shall we say, substantial. In diplomatic circles, pulling a Tessa is now shorthand for winning through unexpected means. Rather amusing, really. The Draz'Kathar Dominion has withdrawn all territorial claims to the Cerelian belt. Their diplomatic corps has undergone what humans might call a complete overhaul. Kraz'Nul himself has retreated to his ancestral fortress, reportedly engaged in spiritual contemplation, which I suspect is Draz'Kathar code for hiding from embarrassment. Most fascinating are the 17 trade agreements that have spontaneously materialized between human territories and formerly hostile systems. Nothing motivates diplomatic cooperation quite like the realization that the species you've been dismissing as soft-skinned weaklings can disable your most fearsome warrior with a tap of their fingers. The Galactic Xenobiology Council has reclassified humans from Category 3, developing species of limited concern, to Category 1, priority study subject. Their research budget has tripled. Several leading xenobiologists have taken early retirement rather than admit their previous assessments were comically wrong. As for me, I've requested permanent assignment to the Earth sector. Call it professional curiosity, or perhaps survival instinct. When the inevitable reconfiguration of galactic power structures occurs, I'd prefer to be on the side that understands persistence hunting. Oh, I've buried the lead, haven't I? How careless. You might be wondering why I, Chief Observer Draz'Kathar, found this particular case so fascinating. Would you believe that 43 cycles ago I dismissed a human request for observer status on the Galactic Tribunal? My exact words in the official report were, "Species too primitive for meaningful contribution to interstellar jurisprudence. Recommend revisiting application in no less than 70 cycles when basic evolutionary deficiencies might be overcome through technological augmentation." Tessa Morgan was kind enough to remind me of this when we spoke after the trial. She even showed me a copy of my report. She had it saved on her personal data device. And then this is the truly terrifying part. She smiled and said, "No hard feelings. We're very patient." I've since had my residence upgraded with 3 additional security systems and relocated to a completely different quadrant. You never know when a Deathworlder might decide to take another step in your direction. End observation report. Chief Observer Draz'Kathar, signing off. Though perhaps I should start practicing a new title. Former Chief Observer seems increasingly likely.